Next up on our 2022 positional reviews, we talk about the cornerbacks. It's going to get spicy. See our thoughts on them right after this.
Let's go.
The Minnesota Vikings cornerback position in 2022 was, well, up and down, to say the least. Obviously, started out Patrick Peterson, Cam Dantzler. Then it ended up Patrick Peterson, Akayleb Evans. Then it ended up Patrick Peterson, Duke Shelley, with some Andrew Booth mixed in there till he got hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam Dantzler, Cam Dantzler had injuries plus some personal issues at the end of the season. Obviously, we talked about in our pass rusher, or like our general defense videos, about just how disappointing it all was. Nothing really gelled together with pass rush and our cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, cornerbacks playing far off in the Donatell defense. Overall, it wasn't pretty. Let's just put it that way. But still, got to review the position. We'll hop in, talk about the players, break them down piece by piece, and we'll do that. But first off, before we get into that, I just want to bring this up that 78% of you aren't subscribed.
What the heck?
Come on, it's free. Hit the button, hit the subscribe button, hit the red button, ring the bell, get notifications when our videos come up. Yeah, it's free. It's fun. We even
give away Justin Jefferson rookie cards, other cards. We gave away a PSA Madison card, and those giveaways are only going to get better and better as we grow because of you guys. So you might as well hit to subscribe. It's easy. You have a chance to win stuff. There's no reason not to.
Weekly videos, live streams, come hang out. It's fun stuff. But anyway.
Subscribe and hit the bell. Don't forget to press the bell too. Get notifications for our videos, because the live stream specifically is where we do a lot of our giveaways, and we have a lot of plans with those. So definitely do that. Anyways, yeah, let's jump into it.
First off, we'll start off with the vet, Patrick Peterson. Let's be honest, definitely a Hall of Fame corner when it's all said and done. And he had a pretty solid season with us this year. Played in all 17 games, 63 tackles, 5 interceptions, second in the league. 58.9% completion when thrown at, 3 touchdowns allowed, 80.7 overall PFF grade, 66.9 nice run defense, and an 82.5 coverage grade, which is pretty solid. Obviously, Isaiah Hodgins kind of had his way with him against the Giants. And, at times he looked a little bit slow, but again, was it just the defense overall? I'm not sure. But overall, very solid season for Patrick Peterson. I know last year in 2021, he wasn't great, but this year I felt like he played much better. Still, from 100%. The way it sounds, it doesn't sound like he's coming back. It kind of sounds like the plan is to move on from him. But I think he still has a couple good years left in him. This year, I was very impressed with how he played for the most part. And yeah, overall, a pretty solid season for Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, I would say a really good season, other than obviously, like you already mentioned, that Giants game against Hodgins. Hodgins.
Yep.
That was definitely not a high moment for him, but for the rest of the season, especially against Arizona when we played them, he stepped up big time. 5 interceptions, second in the league. I think last year did he only have 1 interception last year? I know we were waiting for a while, and I think he brought it to the house though.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 interceptions, second in the league, 58.9 completion percentage when targeting him is actually pretty insane. I know at some point in the season, we were talking all-pro season out of him, which is fantastic. And like you said, it does sound like we're going to be going away from him. Though, if we did keep him at a reasonable price, I think I definitely would do it, mostly just because obviously with Flores in the mix now, and he's going to run those blitz packages, and you need to have those kind of cover corners that are probably going to be an island by himself. I think I'd feel the most confident with him being there for all the cornerbacks that we have right now. I'd feel the most confident with him back there on an island than these other guys, since they're just so young and still have a lot to prove. So I wouldn't mind figuring that out. But like you said, it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So we might have to just move on. And luckily, we do have a lot of young studs that we're going to be going into that hopefully we see them progress. But
sure.
I don't know. Overall, I thought he had a fantastic season. And to give for a grade for Patrick Peterson, I'm going to have to go with a I'm gonna go with the B plus. I'm gonna go B plus. I want to go B plus, A minus. That's kind of the area that I'm feeling for his season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just feel like you can't forget about the Isaiah Hodgins games. Plus, at times he did look a little bit slow, but I think a B plus is fair. I would put him in the same spot as well. So, moving on to our next guy is Cam Dantzler. 10 games, obviously, as I said, missed some games with injury, as well as some personal matters at the end of the season. 45 tackles, no interceptions, 1 forced fumble, which I assume is the one against Amir Smith-Marset, which was a huge play.
Right.
78.4% completion when thrown at on 51 targets, 3 touchdowns allowed, 64.7 PFF grade, 55.6 against the run, and 66.5 in coverage. Again, very up and down season. He just can't seem to find traction. And obviously you can't blame what happened at the very end of the season on him. Injuries has kind of always been a thing. But I don't know. I'm really not. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think about Cam Dantzler. And I mean, obviously, we still have him under contract. At least I think it's another one or two. I think another season. But I think we were hoping for more at the end of the day, and we just didn't see. I mean, he wasn't a consistent starter. I mean,
I agree. We were hoping for more out of him. I think earlier on in the season, before all the injury stuff, I can say that we were. Like, he was looking pretty good. And that play against the Bears, obviously earlier in the season, was huge. And that's, it's one of those things that you can't teach what he did there. It's a playmaking type of play that he had there. But at the end of the day, like what you said, I'm a big Cam Dantzler fan, and I do think he does have the talent. I know if we have him for another season, I like that because I do think he still has that potential to, especially in a cornerback position, which is, like you've mentioned before on here, outside of quarterback is the hardest position to learn in the NFL and to get accustomed to. And he's going into his third season. No, this is his third season, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So fourth season next year. I mean, could be a good chance that he makes a big bump, and we kind of need it. Unless we can figure something else out in free agency. Because otherwise we got the next guy's coming up, a couple second-year players, and then another guy that we don't know for sure, who had a fantastic season with us, but we don't really know for sure how that will look next season. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think for a grade for this season, though, I'm still not off the bat. I'm not off the Cam Dantzler train. I still think he has that potential to be a good cornerback. But for this season, I'm gonna go with the C.
The play against the Bears is going to bump it up a little bit to me for like a C plus. So, but overall, you would have liked to have seen more, and maybe now without Patrick Peterson being there, maybe he will take the next step. But time will tell there.
Yeah, and his injuries was obviously a concern, and then he would end up losing his starting job to this guy here.
Yep.
And Shelley. I think that's part of it. And I think Cam Dantzler kind of he didn't lose his job so much because of how he played. He lost his job because of how Duke Shelley was playing in his absence, which is, I guess, noteworthy. But
yeah, for sure. But yeah, Duke Shelley in 11 games with the Vikes, 28 tackles, 1 interception in that last game against the Bears, 48.4% completion when thrown at on 41 targets. No touchdowns allowed, 81.5 PFF grade, 54.8 against the run, and 84.9 in coverage. I mean, yeah. So Duke Shelley comes in. After the Bears cut him, I believe he was on the practice squad to start the season, gets called up to the active roster, gets in there against Buffalo and immediately shows out, shutting down Dawson Knox in the end zone, which was fantastic. A red zone animal, did not allow much past him. Middle of the field, he's not, wasn't great, but he was definitely an improvement on what we had seen all season long. I believe, did Dave say he was still on his rookie, or someone told us he was still on his rookie contract, so he still might be around next year, which is huge. And if he's not, you got to try to find a way to keep him, because if nothing else, he's a consistent force. Is he a top corner in the league? No, but he's definitely serviceable. And as he showed us, he can, when it comes down to crunch time in the red zone, he's phenomenal, and he's solid everywhere else. So, man, I would really love to keep Duke Shelley around best we can, because put him with some of these younger guys, especially with no Patrick Peterson coming back, in the sounds of it. Yeah, very impressed with Duke Shelley.
I obviously, he has he's a smaller cornerback, which is a little bit worrisome. But like those stats, how he played was fantastic. I think like like in my mind, I mean, he has a chance to turn into a really good cornerback. I mean, based on these stats, he could be a top cornerback. Though I'm not going to go. I mean, I don't know how many times we've seen a cornerback, especially cornerback, come in and have, or secondary player come in and have a really good game, really good like partial season or whatever, just for the next year for them to, not even be on the roster at some point into the season or something like that, or like fall pretty far behind. I don't know if that's going to be him, but I can't be one of those people yet just to see what we got from Duke Shelley and just automatically hop on board with, Duke Shelley's cornerback 1 next year for sure. And then we're trying to just figure out cornerback 2. I'm not on board with that. Yeah, I think we definitely need more cornerback depth. I'm not banking that Duke Shelley's going to produce exactly what he did this year. I hope so. That's what I want, but it's a pretty small sample size, I think, to say for sure, especially with his height stuff, to say for sure he's that guy. But he could be, and there's a chance he comes in next year and even improves and has even a better season, which if that was the case, you would be arguing that he is one of the top cornerbacks in the league. But the jury is out, in my opinion. I do want him back because I want to see if he does have it. But, he was on the practice squad and all that stuff for a reason. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen something crazy like that, but we should see. But I got to give him an A, though. In his small sample size coming in his situation, starting with that Knox breakup in that Bills game, which, by the way, I forgot we have to mention this. That Bills Vikings game won moment of the year or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that one like moment of the year. Speaking of that, Justin Jefferson, I think we mentioned before, might as well mention it again. Justin Jefferson, offensive player of the year. And then obviously that game was the game of the year, moment of the year. And he was a big part of that. I mean, if Knox gets that touchdown, that game's over.
Yep.
And he comes right off the practice squad to do that. So, I mean, that, and then he was able to continue playing that way and goes from that game, that practice squad, all the way up to becoming one of the starters on this defense. And like you said, like maybe in the middle of the field wasn't the greatest, but no, I'm excited. I'm hoping we keep him around, and I hope he can keep playing that way.
Yeah.
So
I would say like A- to A, just because like you didn't expect much from him,
Yeah.
So even a B+ would be a good grade for him, but I'm going to bump him up a little bit just because of how clutch he was in the red zone. I'll bump him up to like the A- range. So, but yeah, hopefully keep the kid around. I like him. Next, we have Chandon Sullivan, picked him up from the Green Bay Packers. In 17 games, 62 tackles, no interceptions. Should have had 2 touchdowns, but, NFL officiating. 79.1% completion when thrown at on 91 targets, 1 touchdown allowed, 55.8 PFF grade. Overall, 67.4 against the run and 53.2 in coverage. Not great by Chandon Sullivan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, slot cornerback. Against the run, pretty solid, but everywhere else, I don't know. Not what you want to see. I mean, a good veteran presence, a guy who can, who has talent and can do things, but overall, just an average season.
Yeah. Yeah, average season to say the least. I think he was out of, we didn't get a chance to see a lot of Andrew Booth, but pretty much of all our cornerbacks, especially ones that played a lot, which that's one thing about him. He played every game. I just think he was the weakest link. I don't think we see him next year for sure. 79.1 completion percentage in 91 targets, which is a lot. That's a pretty big sample size. That's higher than Patrick Peterson. That's higher than, I think that's the most that we've seen on this entire, and there's a reason. I mean, they're picking on him, so it makes sense, but only 1 touchdown allowed. Obviously, he's playing more of that slot type of quarterbacks. You're not even going to be worried as much about getting scored on, but 53.2 coverage grade, just not that great. I think we could go in a different direction for sure in that area. Maybe it would be interesting to see how Andrew Booth would do over there, but time will tell. But I don't see us having him next year. So if I was going to give him a grade, I'd probably give him I'll give him a D+.
Yeah, I was thinking like the C- range, just because I feel bad that those 2 touchdowns were robbed from him. Like, let's be honest. But
yeah, it's true. But
next on the list is rookie Akayleb Evans. Obviously, a lot of concussion issues. So let's hope that those are, obviously, when you get, as they say now, when you get concussions, it's easier to get the next one. So hopefully, since he didn't play the last bit of the season, and recovery in the offseason. Hopefully those issues quell next season. But in 10 games, 19 tackles, no interceptions, 1 forced fumble, 68.2 completion percentage when thrown out on 22 targets, allowed 1 touchdown, 47.2 PFF grade overall, 76 against the run, which is really solid. And that's the one thing you saw in that very first game that he played is he was not afraid to get down in the box and go tackle people, which is huge.
Right. Yes.
And then 40.5 in coverage. Obviously, as we talked about that transition, he was a guy that drafted a lot higher than he probably should have been, but just because Kwesi saw something that he really liked in him. But overall, I think it's a very solid season from a later round pick in Akayleb Evans. Showed flashes of athleticism, flying all over the field, the competitive fire. I think Kwesi picked right here.
Yeah.
I think he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, a fan favorite. I mean, obviously he jumped right into Twitter and became, it's like kind of like him and Chris. What's that?
Guy's got a bunny or a rabbit, doesn't he?
Oh, does he?
I think so.
Probably. I think so, actually. But yeah, like Chris Boyd type of thing where he comes in and he just immediately reached out to the fans, all the concussion stuff, making sure everyone knows he's okay, like all that stuff, which is really cool to see from a player. This is someone that had I would say, I mean, he's a rookie, comes in and I think he had growing pains, especially earlier on in the season. I did want to bring this up. If you can see here, it was rough earlier in the season. His tackling was always really good, but it was really that wash because he did get he was starting to get hyped right after the bye. And that was the Washington game where he ended up having a 70. His coverage wasn't the greatest throughout, but 70 coverage grade in that game, 73.8 overall. And then even the Buffalo game, he had a pretty good game, especially on the run defense, as you can see here in his tackling. He's someone that hopefully he can improve in his coverage, but his run game already came in and is a really solid player in that area. Like he could maybe be someone, I don't know, what's his height? He's 6'2". I don't know.
That's pretty big.
That's pretty big. I don't know if he'll be playing in the slot, but but man, with that run defense and his tackling, that could be useful there. Then obviously he went through concussion protocol. So he had his best 2 games of this season, got a concussion, comes back in the game against the Jets, gets another concussion there. So it's like as soon as we started seeing something from Akayleb Evans, and, even from the fans' perspectives, it's like Akayleb Evans, we got our cornerback number 2 after seeing those 2 games. The injuries came in and kind of ruined some of it. But at least we were able to see all right, this guy has some real potential, and which is pretty exciting to see. As a grade overall, I mean, it still wasn't a fantastic season. I've been kind of giving face value to these scores, but I liked what I've seen from those 2 games, but I'm still going to give him a C for the season. I know you're a little bit more generous on the rookies, but I'll give him a C.
Yeah, I was going to go C+, just because, I mean, obviously he's got a lot of growing room. Can't blame the injuries on him, but I mean, I don't know. It is tough to grade a rookie, especially when they weren't a high pick and they didn't get to play all season long. When we get to Lewisine, you can't grade that season because you just don't know.
Which I don't have Lewisine on here, by the way, on our next video. Yeah, it would be pointless. I should have just had it. Hopefully he plays next.
Right. But yeah, I mean, C+, I don't know. It's so hard to grade rookies. Yeah,
that's why I'm just going face value. Obviously, I gave him a little bit more because if you look at his stats, it's not really any better than Chandon Sullivan's, but he had those 2 games. I'll give him based off a little bit more based off that 2 games. So otherwise, I want to give him a little bit face value. I mean, I know next year he's not a rookie. Hopefully, he even steps up and improves, and I'll just give him a higher grade based off of that. But
sure. But moving on to our last guy, the last one, I think.
Yeah.
The other rookie, the 2nd round pick, Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson, played 6 games after dealing with multiple
he wasn't always playing. He pretty much played 2 games at cornerback.
But 11 tackles, no interceptions, 86.7 completion percentage when thrown out on 13 targets only. No touchdowns allowed, 45.3 PFF grade overall, 62.8 against the run, and 41.7 in coverage. I think the fan base is split. There's part of the fan base that's he was injured. You got to give him time, let him get over this, get a full off season, get his surgeries out of the way, get a full off season recovering. Then you have the other side that have completely thrown in the towel. Think they have a good point that the guy's literally been injured since high school, which is fair.
Yes.
Dealt with a lot of groin injuries and stuff in college. But and then they just think, and he's just not going to be that good. He's overhyped, all this type of stuff. In a small sample size, didn't do well. It kind of is what it is. I understand that point of it, but I just want to see if he gets a full off season to recover and get into training camp fully healthy. I want to see what this guy can do, because as we saw from his college tape, there is a lot to like. Some people had this guy pegged as a first round pick last year. So the talent is there. It's just the health and the consistency. Can he stay healthy and can he learn?
Right.
And that's what we don't know yet. And that's why, I was going to get into this early. When it comes to grading, I don't think you can. I think you got to, I would go with an inconclusive, because you just haven't seen enough to be able to toss a grade on the kid, because it's unfair to do so since he hadn't, been healthy. Which is that a knock on him? Sure. But at the same time, like, I just don't think it's fair to grade the kid on what we saw, just because we don't really know.
Yeah, I will grade him. I want to say this, for me, I'm on the side, like, I don't think we've seen enough of Andrew Booth. The injury thing is real. Yeah, if he goes into next season and he's just constantly going through injuries, that is fair. But you take the injuries things out of it, I think he could be a really talented player. And those 2 sample size that we did, those 2 games, I definitely 100% don't think that's enough to just say this guy isn't going to have a good future in the NFL. That's just not enough at all, especially with how hyped he was during training camp and the off season. Obviously, I wasn't there to actually see it or anything like that, but just glowing praise is big time. Like, it was huge. It was like, it reminded me of Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs, which I said back then too. That is just, you don't hear that kind of praise from rookies, and he was one of them that you did. In those small sample sizes, we didn't get to see his skill set, but he also barely got a chance to play. I think he still can be something special. I still think, based on his college tape, that he was and could be considered one of the best cornerbacks in that draft at just adjusting to the ball and getting interceptions. And I still think he has that talent. By watching his tape and stuff, that's what I saw out of him. I thought he was fantastic at that. We didn't get a chance to really see him do that. But I still think he has high potential. So I'm on Andrew Booth's side. Hopefully he stays healthy. That's the thing. If he doesn't, then what do you do? Like, you have injury, you're just going to be injured all the time, and you can't do anything if you're injured. So that's fair. But rookie season, I'm not ready to just say he's out of here. I can't. And I'm going to give him a grade still, which I'm going to give him a C-. You could argue it should probably even be worse than that in just his small sample size, but I'll give his C- for just the 2 games that he played. I think you could say it's inclusive, but I feel like I have to, just because his 2 games are really not good. And I was hoping.
But but that's the thing. He didn't have a lot of training camp to prepare. Came in cold. Got thrown into action due to injury.
Right.
It's not like he wasn't able to properly prepare for the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point.
But that's a very fair point. Like, I know you always have to be prepared, but at the same time,
you're
a rookie. Not that easy.
Yeah, especially when you're a rookie. You're a rookie, and then you've been going through your own injuries too.
For sure.
Which, it's all about the injuries. But from a talent perspective, man, it's way too early to base this on 2 games, because everybody's on Akayleb Evans, and Akayleb Evans, his coverage grade was worse than Andrew Booth, and he played much more than Andrew Booth. And Akayleb Evans did not play well earlier in the season, which I like Akayleb Evans, and I hope he turns into a good player. But it shows how long, it took him 5 games or 6 games before he had a couple good ones. It takes time to get adjusted to the NFL, so I don't think it's fair at all to be like, all right, Andrew Booth is out. Other than the injury thing. The injury thing's fair, but still, rookie season, I don't know. You can't just base that off of just his rookie season, especially like going into the offseason. I don't know if it was the same injury, because what was the injury? It was like a abdominal thing, right?
Yeah, he had a hernia surgery, I think.
Yeah, but that wasn't his problem this season.
I think it was.
It was.
Ooh, that's calf. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. I know there was a variety of things, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting going into the next year. Who knows? I really don't know what they're going to do at corner. They have a lot of things to figure out, but under Flores and with Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi at the helm, I think they'll figure it out, and I think they'll get it done. But overall season grades for the cornerbacks, like, I don't know, C+, B-, weren't helped by the pass rush or whatever. But, and again, a lot of it was scheme. So I'm leaning like B- because I think they would have been better with a better scheme.
I'm going to go with C+. I think the scheme thing, because I mean, Patrick Peterson played fantastic for a majority of the season, and then Shelley came in and played fantastic too. But obviously, we were getting burnt way too often. It wasn't just the cornerbacks though, and I do think it's a lot of scheme. But yeah, B-, C+. I think that's good overall. Hopefully next season we get to the quarterback and it's not up to the soft coverages and the corners doing stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. But that'll do it for our thoughts on the cornerbacks in 2022. We want to know your guys' thoughts. Drop those thoughts down in the comment section. Give us your grades for the cornerbacks, and we'll see you guys next time on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.